It's time to talk sports. It's time for the show. When you hear this song on the radio, it's time to tune in. Better act fast. Let me get that potograph. Potograph. Sports Talk Radio. Starting now.
Let's go. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Let Me Get That Potograph. Episode number... Well, Scott, what episode number are we on?
We're episode number 6, Drew. Nah, I'm just messing with you, man. It's episode number 134.
And that is why I have a co-host. Episode 134 of Let Me Get That Potograph. My name, as always, is the DH, and the man you just heard, of course, is my co-host, Scott Rappaport. Scott, how's it going, buddy?
Oh, doing all right, Drew. Just getting ready for some snow coming up this week.
Yeah, I don't know. They always say it's gonna snow here, and then it does, and then they say it's not, and it doesn't. So I mean, it's always mixed up. So I never really know until someone tells me that school's canceled, and I'm like, oh, okay.
They won't cancel school here for this.
No, little different between North Carolina and Chicago when it comes to the winter weather. Well, hey man, finally, after a couple of weeks having to start the show talking about doom and dread in the hobby with you on the show,
That's because, Drew, we're gonna end the show with doom and dread.
Yes, very true.
At least potentially for one person.
Yeah,
but yeah, we're not starting off the show with a scam or anybody trying to rip somebody off or anything like that.
No, and that's what I love. And guys, what we are talking about, of course, is Benny Montgomery. Bowman draft taken over the hobby over the past couple months, or the past month, at least the baseball hobby, or a few weeks. And Benny Montgomery is a player in Bowman that has his first Bowman in there with the Rockies. He's a pretty highly touted prospect from my understanding. I haven't done a deep dive into prospects yet, but from my understanding, he's got potential. But he made the news and created a brand new chase card, dude, and a brand new multiple chase cards, and I love it.
I'll tell you something, Drew. This is my favorite story that has come out so far in 2020.
Same here.
And I love it because I always thought to myself, if I ever had a card and I had to, sign a couple thousand of them for Topps or, Panini, whatever, I would do something. Yeah. I would do something, completely creative on some of them instead of just signing my name.
Right.
And he just went all out with this. And all out. I like the ones that have come out so far. There's the Borat one.
Well, there's the big one that he put out that he responded. Like, now, the funny thing is we wouldn't have known about this had someone not questioned the authenticity of his autographs, because he has a fancy one and a non-fancy one. And so he put out a video showing, hey, dude, look, these are my signatures, and basically telling him, that my hand was, starts to hurt and I can't feel it. But then he posted the picture of the Borat. So he knew when he signed it that it was going to be big, but he signed one of them Borat, which if you've seen his social media, he does some hilarious Borat inspired videos, which are just too funny. So it has a little inside connection with his social media and his fan base, which I think is really cool also.
And if you've ever looked at the back of a Bowman draft, or Bowman Chrome card, they actually put the player's social media handle on the back there. It's usually Twitter that they do, and I'm grabbing. I've got a couple of them here. I got this
from.
Yeah, I got this Andrew Vaughn one in my hand, which of course doesn't have his.
But I thought it was also awesome that he did, in addition to the Borats, how I said multiple chase cards, any card that he really messed up on bad, instead of that being a wasted card, or instead of him having less autos or having to sign it again or do all that other stuff, he took it upon himself to make personalized inscriptions, and apparently different ones for each card, which I think is
the best part.
And so cool. And for a guy that, even if he's not a highly touted prospect, it makes the cards in demand. But I mean, when it is a highly touted prospect, I go back to the Otani Kanji auto, the Bowman Kanji, and when that came out and the chase that brought along with it. But to see someone do something like this, it's so awesome. It's funny, and it's an athlete taking some pride in their work and their signatures when we were just talking about them not.
I like it that he basically realized, like, oh crap, I screwed that one up.
Yeah.
But instead of, and I will never ever condone this, except in this one occasion, instead of taking some, there's things you can go to an art store and you can, erase the marker or take some car wax to it or whatever. Instead of erasing it and starting over again, which again is not condoned. However, if the athlete signing it does it, just to correct, that's a different story. He basically took it upon himself to say, oh crap, I screwed that one up, but hey, let me add a little bonus something on here for the unlucky bastard that pulls the card that has the screwed up
and it
auto.
turns him into the lucky bastard.
Exactly. Now here's the other side of the coin. He signs the cards, he sends them back to Topps at that point, probably looks through them, just make sure they're all signed, and somebody, before they put them into the packing machine, somebody at Topps is probably going to notice these.
Well, they didn't stop it because the one with the inscription was not from his personalized pictures. That was a breaker that had pulled.
Right. But the question is, did they insert them all?
Right.
Or like the Borat one that he shared, did they not include that in the pack? So people may think that, hey, we're chasing Benny Montgomery's Borat card and it's not even in the product.
If they didn't, that's
I wish Topps would come out and say either way that hey, it's either in there or it's not, or we pulled it, for whatever reason.
Well, I'm gonna reach out to him and ask.
Yeah, that would be a good idea, because I think, especially if they did put it in there, I think they need to publicize the fact that they put it in there, because this is one of those weird stories where it's a screw up of some sort.
Yeah,
but it's funny.
Yes.
And, they let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really digging this.
Yes. I love that. I instantly became a fan. One photo, I didn't even read the story. Just the photo of the Borat card of him and that tweet. One tweet made me a Benny Montgomery fan. Then I read the entire story. And I was like, oh my God, I love this dude. I think he is amazing. I think he is cool. Then I find out he can actually play some baseball and might actually advance to double and triple.
Because, that's the pros. In the end, that's the important part is that the kid can actually play.
Yes, if this is nobody, then this is a cute little story, but this is potentially somebody. So, I mean, that does make it that much bigger, but it's just so cool to me.
This is like I said, this is my favorite story of the year so far. Now, granted, it's still technically we're still in January, even though the show's coming out in February. But I like it, and I think that there's got to be some other athlete out there, maybe somebody signing, probably not for Bowman 2022 Bowman, but maybe Bowman Chrome. So I know some of the Bowman cards are probably out there for signatures already, but I'm really hoping that there's one of the other guys that, and even in another sport, that comes out and actually tops this. And maybe Luca's mom is listening and she'll sign a bunch with.
Oh, don't give me that! Don't tell me you're one of those. All right, here, hold on. I got to make you a tinfoil hat real quick here.
Hey,
hold you up a tinfoil hat.
I don't know if I believe it 100%, but it's funny. It's funny to joke about.
It's very funny to joke about. Anytime you want to talk about Luca's mom, I'll talk about Luca's mom. I mean, you trust me.
And like I said, I had to throw that in there. Maybe Joe Montana's wife has been known to actually sign stuff for him.
Well, of course. I mean, there's millions of them. I mean, I called out Colton Welker, and he actually got my phone number within 20 minutes and was texting me, which was crazy. But he actually forged them. I mean, they're plain as day forged it. He wouldn't do that video, that simple 11-second video that I asked for. So I mean, there are athletes out there that we busted him a couple years ago on his high tech autos. You can plain as day see him, and I mean, there's other athletes, Troy Aikman, Steve Grad on this show, one of the very first episodes of Let Me Get That Potograph. Steve Grad broke the Dak Auto Pen story. That story was broken on this show. And all the first information was on Let Me Get That Potograph. And when he did, he talked about how Jerry Jones has a history with the Cowboys. He gives them all their quarterbacks get auto pens. And Troy Aikman had Topps certified cards that were put out. Topps tried to do a recall, did not get near even a tenth of them. Tony Romo, anything that was sent to him through the mail was all auto-penned. Then you had Dak. I mean, there's tons of people that do all this fake stuff. And then you get guys like this that just do something so awesome.
Oh, yeah. Or the, the recent one, the National Treasures LaMelo Ball. That looked like it was Miles Bridges.
Yes,
it wasn't. That was LaMelo that actually did it. But
no, those are absolutely two completely different signatures. But it is plain as day. Miles Bridges saying, "Bro, just sign it like this. It's easy."
Exactly.
I mean, it's how that combo went.
But that's fine. But Miles Bridges can tell LaMelo, "Hey, sign it like this. It's easier." That's fine as long as it's LaMelo's hand.
As long as
touching the pen and putting the ink on the card, then it's perfectly fine.
Exactly.
But yeah, this is. I'm really hoping that somebody in another sport comes out and tops it. Because if it's, honestly, if it's me, and I was signing a card, I would be like putting little cartoon characters next to signature, or
Well, see, I've been saying for a long time, and Panini kind of does this, but Topps rarely, if ever, does. But I always thought that was the next thing from autographs. Like, you get autos, but what's next? What's gonna top it? Well, inscriptions, and Panini has done some inscription lines, and encased and everything. But they're always generic, dumb little BS, where you can tell the athlete's still being forced to sign hundreds of them and doesn't want to. I want to see athletes, take that move and do it themselves. There's a lot of them that pay attention to the hobby that are collectors now that really take pride in these cards. I'd love to see some of them see how people reacted to Benny Montgomery. And let's face it, all these guys would love that attention. So, I mean, like, do it. Let's see who one-ups them.
This is the good kind of attention.
Yeah.
They need to take it. I can't believe I'm saying this. They need to take after Rittenhouse and do inscriptions like that. I mean, no, we're laughing at it because, these like the Game of Thrones cards and things like that all have the inscriptions on them. And, each of the actors,
they're wonderful.
Inscribes it a certain number of times and then does a different inscription, a certain number of times. And, sometimes they've
Leaf is good with that. Leaf does a good job with some inscriptions. Brian does a great job, which we'll be talking about Brian a little later, but Leaf does a wonderful job with some inscriptions for sure as well. But Benny Montgomery, man, it's just so nice to have an awesome, happy, fun story in the hobby because, that's what this hobby's about. It's supposed to be fun. Yeah.
100%. And that's, too many people, I think, have turned this into a, too serious of a business.
Yeah.
Where for most people, it still is a hobby. And you can have it as a business and still have fun with it like a hobby. And you just have to mesh those two together. And I think this is doing a really good, this story and what Benny Montgomery did, I think is a good mesh of, hey, let's chase after the chase cards for the money, but it's fun because you've got a whole bunch of different varieties out there. And, like I said, I want to see that, if somebody winds up hitting that Borat card.
Oh, I want to see it, and I want to see what it goes for compared to his other cards and everything, because I think it probably tops the Super in my eyes.
And I think the one he showed was Blue Shimmer, right?
Yeah, no, it was a Blue Wave. It was a
Blue Wave. Okay, same. Yeah, I guess the same thing. So Blue Wave. I'm curious to see if he did it with any others.
Me too.
Is there a purple out there that has Borat? Is there a gold? Is there an orange?
Just chose to.
Did he?
One.
God forbid, sign the Superfractor that way. Oh my God, man, that would do. I don't know. See, that's one
now
of those. Now
you've got me curious what the 1 of 1 is signed as. Now
I just don't know. And did he sign it with his good signature and still put an inscription on it too?
Right.
That would be cool. But if he signed the Superfractor Borat, that right there, I think I would have a problem with.
Yeah, that would be a little different,
But like I said, if he put an inscription on there, hey, X, whatever number draft pick he was, or something like that, that would be really cool because it ties into, or go Rockies or something,
right?
That I would never ever say about the Rockies,
right?
That would be really cool for him to have done that because the Superfractor is unique as it is because it's the 1 of 1, but it makes it different from the other players' Superfractors that are out there.
And all his other Superfractors and everything else that he'll have. It differentiates it and truly makes it a one-of-a-kind item. And,
this is already going to be the one-of-a-kind anyway, because it's his Bowman first auto.
Yes.
So this Superfractor is going to be more valuable than any other Superfractor have down the line. So that, the inscription doesn't wouldn't make it.
No,
It wouldn't have an effect on the value from that standpoint, but it would have an effect on the value as it compares to similar players of similar skills and their superfractor that don't have any sort of inscription on it.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, we'll move on from that. Just an awesome story, though. I love it. It's always nice, like I said, when there's some fun stuff to talk about. But we'll move on now, man, because there's a really interesting announcement this week, dude. Wanted to get your thoughts on this. eBay, they've really embraced the card market in the last year, having a heavy presence at the National, trying to make it act like they actually care about listening to your questions. Really getting into the card market and seeing how strong it is, being one of the biggest sellers on their platform.
Well, I think it's about time, given the fact that they've screwed up the card market for the last 20 years.
I agree.
They're not a sponsor, are they?
No.
Just check it. So yeah, this is definitely an interesting one. So they basically came out of nowhere and said, all right, effective now, any card, it's a raw card, non-autograph and non-relic.
Yeah.
So
plain old card.
Nebula,
card, Genesis.
Could be serial numbered, but as long as it doesn't have an autograph, doesn't have a jersey or patch or anything in there. Any card $750 or higher is now not going to be sent directly from the seller to the buyer, but the seller is now forced to send it to what they are referring to as the eBay Authentication Center, which the rest of us in the hobby know as CSG.
Now, wait a minute. They're being forced? I thought this was an option.
This is not an option.
This is forced?
Yes, there are,
Wow.
and it's a free service, and I'm throwing the air quotes.
Yes, it's free, but it's also forced.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so it's any card that is listed at $750 or higher. Now, here's the other catch: if you list a card at $750 or best offer, and you take an offer that is less than the $750, you still have to send it to the Authentication Center. So if I put up a dollar base card at $750 and I take $1 offer on that card has to go down to CSG. It gets authenticated.
I'm doing it just to make CSG work.
I wouldn't do that. But,
I'm just kidding.
Hey, look, I'm devious. I can be a jackass, every now and again. But I'm not messing around with that one.
It's a joke.
Well, the joke is doing things like grading my 1989 Uribe Fleer card. That's a joke.
Yeah.
But doing that kind of stuff, listing for $750, selling for $1.
So it's forced, but so after that they send it to CSG, which I want to touch on them in a minute, but what happens from there?
So CSG inspects the card, and then they put it in a little, it looked like a team bag on the picture, and they put a seal over, like a tamper-proof sticker over it. Then they pop it into an envelope and they ship it out to the.
They put it in a nice box. The display box is nice looking. I
haven't seen the display box, but that's fine. Look, that's fine. They're, it's them. It's they. So this is very similar to the way that they handle the global shipping.
Yes.
For international shipping, where once the card gets to the Authentication Center, it is no longer the seller's responsibility.
Right.
For damage or anything like that, unless it comes back that the card is not real,
right,
or it is not as described.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker.
Mm-hmm.
So if I listed a card and I listed it as, let's say, near mint. Now, I'll tell you, when I list cards that are raw, I do not put a grade. I don't attempt to say, this is mint or this is near mint, because that is a recipe for trouble.
Yes.
I post high resolution pictures of the front and the back. People can zoom in on them. They can judge for themselves. If they have any concerns, they can always shoot me a message and I will respond in kind.
Right, exactly.
Now, so if you list the card as, near mint.
Yeah.
And they get down there and they inspect it and they see that, oh, no, it's actually very good. Which, by the way, for those of you who really don't know, or people who are new to the hobby, the term "very good" as it pertains to the condition of a card is actually not very good.
No, yeah.
What's that, like a 4?
Yes.
In a grade? I mean,
yes.
It's very good. There's nothing very good about that. I don't know why they.
I know I've never just because they can't say, just because they don't want their label to say shit.
and that's what it is. You know, number one, a grade of 1 is poor. Okay, yeah, I get that, but I would move poor up to like 3.
Yeah,
and number 1 I would label like complete
trash.
Yeah, trash would be good. So once the card gets there, it is no longer seller's responsibility. So if anything happens in transit between the authentication center and the buyer, it is eBay's responsibility to cover the remaining costs, which is great. Now, I have multiple thoughts on this entire program.
Okay.
There are things that I love about it. You know, it's a fraud prevention, piece.
Yes,
which is great
on that end.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're trying to prevent scams and, things like that. And that's great. I'd be more concerned about fake slabs.
Yes.
And things like that. But also, since we're only dealing with raw cards.
Yeah.
There are, aside from the fake, people make, there's fake PSA, BGS slabs floating around out there. But what about cards from, I don't want to say not reputable or less than reputable grading companies, maybe newer grading companies, ones that don't have the experience, of 20 years plus in the industry. What about their slabs? Because there's been a couple of grading companies that are recent to the industry that have graded fakes.
Yeah, lots of them.
Yeah, so they seem to get a pass on all this. Or if it, depending on how it's listed, or whatever. But
see, that was my biggest problem with all of it. Is I love, okay, cool, awesome. I think it's awesome that you're authenticating stuff. I think it's great that you're giving people that are buying high-end cards a higher level of protection. I think that's awesome. I think it's cool. I think the process is interesting. But the end result is nice. The packaging is nice. I would not use it on cards of $750, but if it's thousands and thousands, then I think it's a great thing. But my problem is they're focusing on all this and moving to authentication with CSG and forming a partnership with them, essentially Fanatics. We'll get to that in a moment. But they want to worry about authenticating cards while allowing these fake ACAO cards, these BS fake bullshit cards, the 1,000 lots of Michael Jordan fake reprints. Like, it's a reprint is when a company reprints it, people. If you're new to the hobby, you may not know this. Reprint does not mean that someone else printed it. That means the company reprinted it, not someone at home on their computer. And they let all these other reprints, all this other crap slide. And even when it's reported, they leave it on. They let them sell it. They let them sell those fakes that you were just talking about. But yet they want to worry about the authentication of some stuff. Now, I like authenticating, but you need to put a lot more effort into getting the fake crap off your site as opposed to authenticating the real stuff.
Right. Now, there's another issue that I have with it. So I live in Chicago, just outside the city, and I sell a lot on eBay. And I, at least 2 or 3 times a week, I have somebody who is within 20 miles of my house that purchases something from one of my auctions or buy it now or, whatever it is. If it's a raw card and it's over $750.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I now cannot ship it directly to the thing, nor can I arrange for local pickup.
Yeah.
I have to ship it down to Florida.
Yeah.
Have them look at it, only to turn around and ship it back what could be 5 minutes from my house.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where if I shipped it out today, it would arrive tomorrow.
Yeah.
So there's a 48-hour turnaround time, and that's business days, not weekends. And then they're saying that they are going to ship it using a method that will get it there no longer than 4 days. And I'm going to assume that's business days.
Yeah.
So we're probably looking at, FedEx ground, UPS ground, DHL, whatever they're trying to use. Maybe they'll use priority mail or something like that. Whatever they can get the best deal on from an insurance standpoint.
No.
But now it's not, and I'm not a new seller. Now I don't have Protein type feedback numbers, but I'm a respectable
you're a heavy.
I've got 9,300 something, 9,600. Yeah. I mean, it's not the account's been there since 2003.
But you're well aware and you understand, and you're a solid and a consistent user of the platform.
Correct. And now where normally a guy, I could go meet a guy at Starbucks or whatever, 20 minutes after the purchase is made and hand him the card. I can't do that anymore with raw cards that are $750 or higher that don't have an autograph or a patch. I can still do it with graded. I can still do it with, but maybe I just start my own grading company and just grade my own cards.
There you go. Throw them in a vanity slab. Pretend it's got a grade. Maybe it passes.
Yeah. Or just not.
They let all these other fakes on.
Exactly. Sell it at the same price. Sell it at the same price as raw, and leave it at that. But now here's the other question I got. Let's say a card is slabbed but doesn't have a grade, but is labeled authentic.
There you go.
Now, I understand PSA, BGS, SGC, any one of those three labels authentic, I'm good. I get a card from one of the
GAI.
Yeah, I'm trying not to name them. But they know who they are.
Yeah, they know.
And honestly, if I had a CSG slabbed card labeled authentic, I would be okay with that too. Knowing that the guys that are doing the grading and authenticating for CSG, were working as graders and authenticators for years and years before they moved. But if it's labeled authentic from one of them, knowing that there have been a tremendous number of fakes that are out there, that have been graded, what do they do?
Well, I think that comes into what I wanted to touch on before we wrapped up this topic, which was, this is eBay right here. This move is a lot more than just authentication. This is eBay's official move and partnership into the sports card industry. Like, this is their first major move. They've had their PSA and other companies have offered services through eBay, but this is eBay really for the first time partnering with a company in the industry and really investing into the sports card industry. And like I said, CSG being the company, CSG, CSC and CS.
There's CSG, CGC.
Yeah, those two together.
Which is their gaming card.
So them together, they're the ones that are going to be doing all of that. That's also the company that I think is going to be Fanatics grading company. They're also in the middle of redesigning their slabs at coincidentally around the same time as all of this. They're going to be the ones doing.
I will tell you, the slab itself. The
plastic, they're the most crystal clear, beautiful ones in the world.
I love it. Their label, the flip that's on there. Yeah. Oh God, that's atrocious.
But that's where everything's headed. eBay's gone in with them now. That's who I think Fanatics is going to be in with. I see this as, a move that's going to have a major, that in 6 months, I think we're going to see this partnership as the beginning of a lot of eBay's involvement in the card market. As before, they acted as the mediary, but that's it. They stayed out of all the business. Now you're going to see them a lot more heavily invested. I do not think for a second that authentication is where they're going to stop, at least in terms of their relationship with the hobby.
I think there's going to be a checkbox option for the buyer pretty soon where you can have CSG grade the card while they have it in their possession for authentication.
Exactly.
And it's going to add cost to it. My concern with that is the seller is already paying a portion of the cost. So if I sell and I take a payment that winds up going through, it's international and it winds up being sent through global shipping, I'm paying the percentage on the portion of shipping that goes, that I'm not even collecting, that goes directly to eBay to cover the cost of that, because it's being processed as part of the same transaction. And it's taking money out of my pocket because I have to eat that cost.
Right.
Now, if they do that for grading, are they going to have that as the same type of transaction where I'm eating the processing percentage on, that portion of the transaction, or is it going to be a separate thing where they check the box, hey, I'd like to have it graded.
Right.
And then it takes them to the CSG, probably an internal eBay page that, allows you, hey, put the item number in here to get the description and then, pay for it again. If that's the case, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But if it's something where the seller is going to wind up having to eat additional cost,
right?
Because this guy clicked the button and said, "Hey, I want to pay an extra $25 to have this thing graded."
Forget that.
That becomes an issue for me.
And they need to be careful with that, because I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to stuff like that, these companies, MySlabs, Alt, there's a lot of alternative, in areas that you can, in places and ways to move cards, and so eBay needs to be careful in my eyes when it comes to where they go in terms of what they force on people and how they put those fees in. But it's good. One thing's for sure, it's going to be interesting, and man, that came out of the blue. I did not see that coming whatsoever, and there were no hints on this.
There were no leaks, there were no rumors, there was nothing. They literally just one day last week it just popped, and it's like, okay, immediately. And I went and I looked at a bunch of cards that were 750 and higher, and I've got nothing on mine that's raw. Right. Qualify for that.
Exactly.
But here's the other question.
Okay.
How are they determining whether or not it's an autograph or a patch if you don't select from like one of the description drop down boxes that it's got a game use piece or a relic or whatever, or it's autograph? If you don't check any of that off, the system itself may consider that a card that has to go for authentication.
Yeah, I mean,
so that's more work for the sellers that we have to start putting in. We should be doing it anyway, but it's more work because they already require grading. Whether it's graded or not, they require a sport in the checkbox, and they're probably gonna have to start requiring, whether or not it's got a relic or auto, just so it knows that, hey, this needs to be routed to authentication as opposed to going directly to the buyer.
And they need, and that's all stuff, like it comes back to, they need to be thinking about the sellers in this also, because there's a lot of alternative places to sell nowadays. But
and if any of the higher ups at eBay are listening, to this one, hey, call me. You know where to find me. I'll give you some ideas. I'll tell you the right things and the wrong things to do, and what's going to screw over the sellers or be good for the sellers, because eBay is well known to basically bend over the sellers and use something really large like a pineapple. And it just it's not pretty.
No, it's not. And so guys, a lot of you might not even be aware of this, and you might have some cards in your account right now with that are that amount and higher. So if so, definitely go check it out. But definitely a surprise. But guys, we've got a lot more on this week's episode of Let Me Get That Potograph. We'll be right back after these messages. And welcome back, everybody, to episode 134 of Let Me Get That Potograph. And now, guys, it is time for the segment that is still taking the nation by storm. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's time for Movers and Shakers. And Scott, last couple weeks I've let you go first, but I'm going to take the reins here, because there's somebody that I like a lot, and I think he needs to be talked about quite a bit. And he's getting absolutely no attention.
Okay,
and
so it's not Joe Burrow.
No, it's not Joe Burrow, shockingly. No, I told people to buy Joe Burrow for a year. If you didn't buy him for the year, sorry, you missed out. I kept trying to tell you, but I didn't expect this, but I kept trying to tell you. But no, I've got a guy that in the NBA is set up to be just an absolutely dominant player on a team that I think is going to be very, very good, and that is Franz Wagner, the rookie for the Orlando Magic. Now, he was a top 10 pick out of Germany, University of Michigan.
By default, I am going to completely disagree with you solely for the fact
that he's from Michigan. Yeah, right. Yeah, I figured.
Aside from that, I love it.
Yes, but Franz Wagner, however you want to say it, is absolutely incredible. On the year, he's averaging almost 50% shooting, 34% from three, around 16 points a game. He's playing about 32 minutes, so he's starting. The kid can pass. He's averaging almost 5 assists a game, as well as almost 5 rebounds, 3 assists, almost a steal a game. The kid can play defense, he can play offense, but he can attack the rim. This kid can do it all. I don't really know necessarily who he reminds me of as a 6'10 shooting guard, kind of combo guard, but he's 6'10", 220, and can do everything. And on this Magic team, him, Suggs. I just love Franz Wagner, and I look at, he doesn't have a huge market yet, but releases are coming out like crazy now, so he's going to. And I'm looking at him right now, and he's not one of those top guys, and so Franz Wagner's my first one.
I like it. I pulled aside all the Chronicles draft stuff that I had for him. Haven't had a chance to do much hoops at all this year, which is the first release with him in an NBA uniform. But I think he is going to be a tremendous player. I like what he's doing down there. The problem is he's the only one that's doing anything.
Suggs is getting there. Suggs is getting there.
Occasionally you see a decent game out of Mo Bamba or Wendell Carter.
Yeah.
But for the most part, Franz Wagner, he's consistent.
Yes.
But he is the only one on that team that is consistent.
That's very true.
Like Chuma Okeke had a good night the other night.
The good thing is NBA players change teams every, 20 times a year. So chances are he won't be on the Magic for long unless he's the focal point of a big rebuild. I don't know. If I'm them, that's what I do because he's that good, I think. I think he's a person that I think can develop into a true superstar.
I think maybe they need to be looking to Philadelphia because he would be the trade bait for Ben Simmons. But I don't see them also giving up a first-round draft pick, which is one of Philly's demands.
Yeah.
So that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start off my picks, and I'm going to football.
All right.
And I'm not going where you think I'm going.
Joe Burrow.
No, dude. I thought you were going to say Stafford, but just again, they're the only two guys left.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to go to the second worst team in the NFL this year as far as record, and as far as as a Bears fan, as far as I'm concerned, is the worst. Well, no, I shouldn't say that because the Packers, I think even less of than the Detroit Lions. But I am rolling with Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver for the Detroit Lions.
Great choice.
He didn't play a lot the first part of the season, but once Goff got that team kind of rolling. And I had this guy on my fantasy team. I drafted him and dropped him after week 8 or week 6 or something, somewhere in there. And I still won the league, so I'm good. But I had to play against him, the second to last week, and the dude put up 40 some odd fantasy points, and then had another 45 or whatever the week after. The dude can play. There's a couple of downsides from a value standpoint. Obviously, he's a wide receiver, not a quarterback, and he plays for the Detroit Lions. And frankly, people in Detroit don't even like the Detroit Lions. So that's going to count against him. So maybe they trade him somewhere down the line. But this kid, he's got the skills. He's got I guess if Stafford were still with Detroit, he'd be a decent, he'd have a decent quarterback too.
Well, I think he's going to have a decent quarterback, and I love that pick, dude. I think he is a number one. I was talking about him with someone else just the other day, actually on Vintage Break South this week with Chris Gilmore. This kid is absolutely legit. I think he's one of the best in the league personally, and when you look at like I keep saying, people like
now,
Jonathan
did you
Taylor,
hold on?
Justin Jefferson.
Were you saying this, or did Gilmore say this?
No, I was saying.
All right, good. Yeah, I say Gilmore hasn't gotten one right yet.
No, I was saying this.
No, I'm just I'm picking on Gilmore. He's a friend of ours. It's all good.
Of course. I think he's gonna be. I think he's gonna be amazing, and I think that there's no reason not to go after him.
No, I think that's why I'm really high on this guy, and I really want to see Detroit trade him, send him to the Bears, let him play with Justin Fields, and see what we can do.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you got for your second one?
All right. So for my second one, I was gonna go hockey, but I'm just gonna summarize that with basically buy any young gun, and I'm gonna go over to football.
That's good. I'm glad you're doing that because my second one is hockey.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna go with some football here, and I've got somebody that they're out of it now. But this is a player that, just like you, I think has a very bright future as a superstar in the league. Some would argue he already is. But Deebo Samuel, he's about to get a franchise quarterback. He's about to get that guy. There's stability in San Francisco. I don't think they let him go. I don't see that happening. I see him unless he ends up not connecting with whoever the quarterback ends up being and there ends up being some ridiculous controversy. I don't see them letting him leave. I see him staying there, developing with the new QB, the stability there, how good this team obviously is. I mean, for God's sake, they almost made it to the Super Bowl. We'd be talking about them. I mean, it's, they were a couple plays away, honestly. And I love Deebo Samuel. I think he's somebody that you can line him up anywhere on the field, tight end, wide receiver, running back, quarterback, I don't care. Put him on the field anywhere. Get him the ball. If I'm San Francisco, I'm finding any way to get him the ball that I can, which they do, and you see the results. And Deebo, his cards have some value, but they're getting overlooked by Jonathan Taylor, by Justin Jefferson, by the rookies in this year's rookie class. They're getting looked over by these guys, and I look at it as down the line, when Deebo's career is all said and done, he's going to own a lot of records, especially when it comes to combo yards of rushing and receiving. And I think you're going to see him being one of those guys that ushers in a new trend of player in the NFL, which is that player that is that combo. That's that guy that's going to drive fantasy football calculators crazy, whether to leave him as a running back or a wide receiver, because these guys can do it all. And so Deebo's my second one.
I think it's a great pick. Another guy I'd love to see, with the Bears. But
there you go. Hey, I'd like to see him with the Bears. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think I really like the guy. There's just something about him.
That's the other thing.
Not even so much the way he plays. There's just something about him. It's
him.
You can't not like the guy.
Right.
He's fun to watch, and
yes.
I find myself watching the Niners games for somebody other than Robbie Gould, and it's yeah. So my second pick, I'm actually rolling with hockey.
All right,
and I am rolling with my man Brandon Saad.
Nice.
So for those of you who have known me for a long time, I have been really high on Saad since he was a rookie back. He played 4 games in 11-12. He really came up during 12-13 after the lockout, but got bounced around a little bit. Went from the Blackhawks to Columbus, back to Chicago, then Colorado, and now he is. Oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this. He's with the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm picking guys this week that from teams that I absolutely despise, but he has found his groove again.
Yeah.
Traditionally he's not an assist guy, but he's got 10 of them through 40 games right now, along with 15 goals. He's probably going to be a 30 goal scorer again.
Yeah.
This year, and that's kind of that mark where the guys want to be is. There's a 20 goal mark, the guys that consistently can put up 20 goals. And then there's the 30 goal mark, and higher, obviously then you get the McDavids and the, Dreisaitl's and stuff like that can, put up 50, in a season, right. Ovechkin, is in that.
But a 30 goal is a benchmark, kind of like 3,000 yards for a quarterback, it's
correct. It's not, it's not the 4,000 yards,
right.
Or the 4,500 yards. But it's that 3,000 to 3,500 yard kind of range where it's not you're not a top tier an A level, but you're definitely you're on the B level, and he's found his groove again, and I think he's got some new life in St. Louis. His stuff is still cheap, and it went up after a couple of Stanley Cups, but it's come down quite a bit, and this is one where yes, I will be straightforward that I am sitting on a massive quantity of his stuff from 11-12 still, and I still do pick up any of the low numbered stuff, things number 10 or less. Right. I will pick up even modern stuff right now, but he's a guy to keep an eye on.
Well, I mean, hey, I love the pick, dude. I mean, like you said, he really found his groove again this year. I liked him when he was in Colorado. He always played with that fire and brings that fire to a team. But the thing that I like most about him is if you're chasing his rookie stuff, you're going back to 2011, 2012. And that's where you were going back 10 years. Yes, so where print runs are very low, when Young Gun print runs are very low, when all of these specialty cards and these inserts and these low numbered cards are very, he doesn't have a billion different rookies like a lot of newer players have. And so I really like that as one of those, on a budget, lower end kind of pickups with a lot of upside.
Well, he's also, it's not just the lower end. I mean, these Young Guns you can pick up for, under $5, but there's some high end stuff too.
Oh no, absolutely.
And even that has come down. You can pick up a Crown Royale silhouette auto to 99 for, under $60.
And see, that's not going to last, especially when his career's over, because the dude, he's sitting right now almost at 400 career points. He's going to hit that in a couple of games. He's got all the potential in the world, and he's got the stats to back it up. Plus, he has the name recognition, and he's got some cups behind him. And like you said, if he can get up to 30 goals, hit that 30 goal mark again, if he could get past, if he could get to 35 or so, really pick it up in the second half, I think he could be really one of the stories of the second half of the year in the NHL. So love the pick.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So that's going to wrap up this week's edition of Movers and Shakers. So guys, we got a couple things before we wrap up the show. We do have the mailbag making its debut here in just a little bit, but before it does, buddy, there's always something going on in the hobby. Whether it's a scam, whether it's someone just being a total dick, whatever it may be, there's always something going on in the hobby. And once again, we got some craziness, and this time the athlete themselves decided to get involved. And of course, I'm talking about
this is one that flew under the radar for some reason. We've known about it for a couple of weeks. We were going to talk about it 2 weeks ago. We pushed it off because of a bigger story. We were going to talk about it last week. We pushed that off because of a bigger story. And now, because we have no, there's nothing major as far as a, scandal or anything like that that's going on, it's time to finally talk about it.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing is that it did fly under the radar for so long and that it still hasn't caught that much attention. Of course, what we are talking about, guys, is that Giannis and his team has sued Brian Gray and Leaf, saying that his contract for autographs for them was for his rookie year only, through 2013, and after 2013, that they did not have any rights to use any of his likenesses, images, anything along those lines. And so
trademarks, any leftover stickers that he signed, which was a big one.
That's the big thing that I was going to touch on in a minute.
So Brian and Leaf, I shouldn't say Brian because who knows, he's the CEO and it's fine, but it may have been somebody else that came up with the idea and said, hey, let's go ahead and create a bunch of Giannis Antetokounmpo cards, and we'll put the Greek Freak on there. And that's a trademark hit right there, aside from name and likeness. And hey, we'll throw in the occasional autograph because we've got all these stickers that he signed back during his rookie year, and let's use them for something, right? Somebody approved it. Somebody within Leaf's department approved it. It's a great idea.
But see, the thing I have a problem with of all this is he's got autographs in 2019, in 2020, in 2017. And Giannis has been a collector since he was in the hobby. He's shown his collection on Instagram back before Instagram Live was even a thing. He was showing off his collection and all the cards that he kept. For God's sakes, the dude kept all of his 101s and all of his good cards, and so you were chasing stuff that doesn't exist because he owns them. But that dude's the one that's doing the lawsuit. I'm sure that'll get brought up in some way, shape, or form in court, since I have the photo of that. But
a couple months ago, he was showing off pieces from his Dante DiVincenzo collection too.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So he's the one that's suing, and
but he's got these autos for years.
Yeah, well, what he's trying to do is get control of his brand and his trademark.
Right.
So in some ways, I kind of understand that.
Well, he has hyper crazy lawyers. They are sue happy, trigger happy lawyers that are very well known for going after anyone that uses his likeness.
Yeah, and this is it's a straightforward trademark infringement, case, and he's going after royalties and this is where things get complicated.
Right.
Because he's going after royalties of, what was made based on his cards being in these products that came out after the contract supposedly ended. Now, you can't look at what they sell for on the secondary market because that's irrelevant.
Exactly.
You can look at the only way to really look at it is to say, hey, how much did Leaf make by including these cards in the product?
And how do you discern, okay, this box is worth $300, but if Giannis's auto it wasn't in it, what is it, $280?
Exactly. We're not talking about large amounts of money.
Yeah.
Because the reality is there were some of the products that they were in. There were so many, because I think the Greek Freak cards, if I remember correctly,
yes,
were inserts in like Best of Basketball or Best of Sports or something like that. And those weren't even the chase cards.
No.
The non-auto versions, there was one in every box.
Exactly.
It didn't do anything, and they sold on the secondary market for dirt cheap.
Yes.
There was no value that those added to it. And frankly, I don't think even the autograph ones that they threw in every so often.
No, they weren't going for crazy Giannis auto money.
Well, no. But I'm saying they even if somebody were chasing the Giannis autos, out of there, they were chasing the slabbed ones, the buyback.
Right.
So I don't think there was any additional value, that was added to the product at all. I think if they were, if Brian said, hey, we're selling these at wholesale for, $200.
Yeah. I
think even if the Giannis stuff was not in there, he would still have said, we're selling this at wholesale for $200. So I'm not entirely sure, how is the court going to decide, hey, what's the profit margin, especially a court that has no idea. I highly doubt that they're going to go in front of a judge and the judge is going to be a collector.
Yeah, I know.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I do know one judge that actually is a collector.
Sweet.
But he is not in the Southern District of New York.
Exactly.
He's not even a federal judge. So, he wouldn't even be here in this case.
Yeah.
But it's, the intricacies, that go on within this industry and how products are put together and how they are, how a wholesale price is determined and then, the additional markup that comes on the secondary market. And even when you buy it from a card shop, technically that's the secondary market.
Yeah.
Because, they're buying it wholesale from either a distributor or actually from Leaf. Typically, he sells out directly instead of going through a distributor. But, their Leaf is only making X, amount of money. You may see the box up for sale for $600.
Exactly.
But, Leaf is only getting, let's say, $250, on the box. This is one of those weird things where I think in the end, it's probably going to wind, they're probably going to wind up writing them a check for some dollar amount and getting slapped on the wrist and saying, hey, okay, we're never going to use them again. We learned our lesson, and that's going to be the end of it. But I think from Giannis' side of things, I think he had to do it, and it's not really about the money. It's it's protecting the use of his name and likeness and trademarks.
Absolutely. And full disclosure here, I'm very good friends with Brian Gray. I did a show with him for a long time, and I've reached out to him, and he has said that he is going to come on the show when he can talk about everything and discuss everything from his point of view. So we will get to hear from Brian Gray regarding the situation here in the future.
Now, here's the other piece of the puzzle. Giannis is not the first high-profile basketball player to have done something.
Nah.
No, Michael Jordan sued a Chicago area grocery store chain called Jewel years ago because they used Jordan's name and likeness in an advertisement. And it was kind of like a congratulations thing after, I think it was his retirement or his Hall of Fame induction or something along those lines. And he wound up suing Jewel because they used his likeness and name and were not authorized to do so.
Yeah,
I don't think he kept any of the money that came out of that. I think he donated it. which is fine. And hopefully Giannis does the exact same thing here if he winds up getting a settlement or a court victory. Because, frankly, he doesn't need the money.
Yep.
And Giannis, hey, man, look, you know where to find me if you need a place for that money to go. Right. You got my number. You know where to call.
Yeah, let me get that potograph at gmail.com. Anyway, so we'll see what happens with it, but definitely some craziness. And not every day you see an athlete suing one of the card companies, but we'll see what happens. But we'll move on now, Scott, to our brand new segment of the show, which, it might not be every show, kind of depends on you guys, but the mailbag. We're bringing in the Let Me Get That Potograph mailbag, where every week we are going to take some of y'all's questions and answer them live, or do our best, or do whatever we can to them, whatever we want. So be careful with what you say. No.
Hey, I am not above making fun of somebody.
Oh no, me neither. Absolutely, really no, stupid. You say a stupid question, I'm probably reading it. But this is the initial first debut episode of the mailbag. So we do have a couple questions this week, Scott. We'll take the very first one from Twitter. Actually, very ironic handle at RealBrady27 asks, is the Hall of Fame bump baked into Tom Brady prices already, or do you expect them to continue to rise post-retirement? Scott, I'll let you start here.
All right, so this is somewhat of a loaded question.
Yeah.
And I would say, yes, the Hall of Fame bump is, for the most part, built in. I think you may see a tiny retirement bump once that officially becomes, a thing.
Yes.
And now, that being said, I think that the Hall of Fame bump, I think, has been built into Tom Brady's pricing forever.
Yeah.
At least for the last decade, comparative to the rest of the market.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we saw a massive increase in what his stuff sells for in the last couple of years, not because of the Hall of Fame bump or because of a retirement bump or anything like that, but because the market as a whole took a major leap.
Yeah.
And Brady stuff, it's come down a little bit, when the market came down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think you will continue to see, trends that follow the rest of the market.
Sure.
But I think as far as the, any like massive increase, when he winds up in the Hall of Fame, it's a given.
No, yeah, those are all those.
It's baked in.
Those are baked in 100%, and they've been baked in for a long time. But I do think, if we're talking short term, I think you're dead on. I think he's going to follow, the trends and the flows of the market. But this is Tom Brady. This is a card. Certain cards of Tom Brady's, maybe not every card of his, but certain cards of his are going to be some of the most legendary cards of all time by the time it's all said and done. When my son and then our kids are adults and everything, those Tom Brady cards are going to be the most iconic cards of, their childhood and everything. So, the Tom Brady cards are always going to continue to go up, I think, and they'll probably be one of those market-setting cards forever. But as far as a Hall of Fame bump, no, and I don't see that. Maybe more interest and maybe a short-term little bump because there's that interest and there's attention on him again. But we really don't know what he's going to do post-retirement, so we don't know how much, we're going to see of him. For all we know, he could become more popular post-retirement, and then from there, you can see a massive bump, who knows. But thank you so much for the question, Real Brady 27. So our second question of the day comes to us from Facebook, from Christopher Brown. And he asks, Scott, how many collectors have you personally come across who try getting complete sets signed either through the mail or in person of a given year or sport?
So I know people that do get cards signed both in person and through the mail.
Yeah, because this is to some people
that
this
is common.
Like common, and to a lot of maybe young collectors listening to the show that have no clue what we're talking about.
No, that is true. So there's actually websites that lists the addresses of all these athletes and other types of famous people, and where you can send, stuff like cards to go get autographed, and follow the directions. Make sure you send them in a, self-addressed stamped envelope and all that kind of stuff. Don't ask them to do stupid things like take pictures of them signing it or anything like that, because they're not going to do that. And if you ever want to see what happens to that, look up Greg Maddox, frat boy. And and one of the articles that has all the different pranks and different things that Greg Maddox used to do. There's one about autographed baseballs and a disposable camera and all that kind of stuff. But that's a common thing. People still send cards through the mail, try to get them autographed. People still stand in line at shows and signing events and things like that.
Well, I take Jude to minor league games, and I mean the amount of people that are trying to get stuff signed there is incredible.
Yeah, my buddy Jose, he's from the Dominican Republic. He lives here though. He goes to a lot of baseball games and gets the Dominican players to sign cards that he has and things like that, and he's got a really nice collection of those. Now, the second part of that question though is, have we ever known anybody to try to get a complete set signed? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm assuming he's talking about something like, like a top Series 1 or Series 2,
right?
350 card set to try to get him signed. I have never ever heard of somebody trying.
I know
to do
a
that.
couple of people.
I'm sure they're out there.
I know a couple that are trying, but I know a couple that are also those same couple that are trying that are way off. But I have seen people try, but no. My answer is no. It is not something that I've seen.
What I have seen, as far as that goes, though, is people that attempt to get a team set.
Yes.
From like a Topps, Series 1, Series 2 update kind of thing signed, because it's smaller, and especially if you're local to them and things like that, it's a lot easier to get done, whether it's through the mail or in person. It's irrelevant. I would love to see somebody attempt to get the full like 700 card Series.
And
1,
if anyone's doing one, please send us pictures. We want to see them, so please.
Yeah, that's more challenging than trying to put together a Prism or Select Rainbow.
Yeah.
So, I would love to see that kind of stuff. And if anybody's actually done it or completed it or anything like
Seriously.
that, send us pictures. Let us know.
Yeah, we'll put it up on socials.
Honestly,
I want to see this stuff.
Honestly, I'd love to have that person on as a guest talking about like how complicated it was. Who were the holdouts?
Yes, please. If you're doing this, let us know.
One of the guys that signed immediately, that sent it back quickly. I wanted the guys who chased for years.
Yeah.
And you just couldn't find them, or they wouldn't respond, or you sent them, because again, we're talking base Topps cards. You may have sent them a card like 10 times and they never send any of them back or anything like that.
No, please let us know, guys. If you're attempting this or anything, Christopher, if you know anybody, please get them in touch with us ASAP. But that's going to wrap up the first edition of the mailbag. But we got a little mailbag information I'm going to let Scott talk about real quick.
All right, so this is actually really good. So I like the questions that we got this week. Next week, we're going to be doing something big.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be big. We actually have a giveaway. So here's what we're going to do. We have let me get into this. So submit your questions, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook,
DMs, whatever.
DM, whatever. And we're going to pick, a couple of the best ones to read on air. But of the ones that we choose, we are going to pick one winner. And that winner is going to get a box of Topps Chrome Black Baseball, courtesy of Topps.
Yes.
And Drew is going to break that live on Let Her Rip next week. So you'll get to see that box broken live on Let Her Rip. So make sure, you're watching Let Her Rip, you're listening to Let Me Get That Potograph, because we're going to do that kind of stuff where, we may tie those two shows.
Yes, that's right. Let Her Rip is coming back to Let Me Get That Potograph for a crossover episode. Thank you once again to Emily and everyone at Topps for the box. But like Scott said, guys, submit the questions. And then on next week's Letter Rip, after we do our regularly scheduled box, which is just absolutely bananas to begin with, we're going to open up the box for the winner, in addition to all the other giveaways that we do on Letter Rip.
Yep.
So,
and that the winner will get all 4 cards shipped down to them. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
Absolutely. Get your questions in, guys. Once again, all you have to do is simply get your questions in to the mailbag from this week's show and the next week. You can post them on any, we'll have mailbag posts. You can post them on any let me get that potograph post, really anything that you have, as long as we can find the questions. So get those questions submitted. Best way to do it is to make sure, obviously, that you comment on a let me get that potograph post. That would be the easiest way, or DM any of the accounts. But that is going to wrap up this week's episode of Let Me Get That Potograph. But before we go, I do have to thank our awesome sponsors. Of course, Vanity Slabs, Card Crusade, Vintage Breaks, and of course our analytical partners, Card Ladder. We could not do this show without you guys. Thank you so much for everything. And Tops for sponsoring the box for Letter Rip's comeback to Let Me Get That Potograph, so to speak, for next week's mail day. But Scott, great show, man. A lot of fun.
Always fun, Drew.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we will be back next week. Until then, you guys know the deal. Keep ripping those packs, pulling those hits. We'll talk to you then. Peace.